I'm not sure what's going on, but I came here with a question. And I'm gonna find the answer if it kills me.
You're over here at PAX. You would brace yourself, because we're at Brace Yourself Games with Crypt the NecroDancer, and I'm here with Ryan, the head of the project and the head of Brace Yourself Games. Now, this is actually not your first PAX here. You actually were here as another developer, and you've had some pretty good gaming development experience. What led to the creation of Brace Yourself Games?
Okay, well, the company, I started co-founded an indie company in 2004 called Grubby Games. We ran that for about 7 years and eventually ended up selling it to Big Fish Games. I worked for them for a few years, but the allure of being indie called to me, so a few years ago I quit and started a new company now that's Brace Yourself Games. So Crypt the NecroDancer is my first game at the new company, and what led to the creation of that was I'm a big fan of roguelike games, but I often find that roguelike games are kind of unfair. You feel like when you die, sometimes it wasn't your fault. But in games like Spelunky, you always blame yourself, because like, I fell on those spikes, I'm an idiot, it's your own fault. So I wanted to take that feeling and bring it to a roguelike game. So I tried to bring skill into the equation by forcing you to move fast and think fast, but moving quickly like that felt like moving on a beat. So I played it with Thriller as the music, so playing along with Thriller, and it felt great. So.
Michael Jackson and a roguelike, who'd have thought? Now, I've been captivated by this beat that's been going on throughout the whole show. But those who haven't know, what is going on in the world of the Crypt of the NecroDancer?
Well, it's a dungeon crawling rhythm game. You have to move on the beat of the music. The enemies also move on the beat of the music, so you don't need to be too precise though. It's not like DDR where they grade you on perfects and misses. You just have to be, you just can't move more than once per beat. It's kind of hard to be exactly precise when a dragon is bearing down on you, shooting fireballs at you. And you can play it with DDR pads. The people behind us are playing on dance pads. But if you don't have one, you can also play with keyboard or controller. I actually prefer the keyboard myself, but it's great for parties like this to have dance pads. You can also play it with your own MP3s, so you can play it with Michael Jackson's Thriller if you like.
Yeah, I heard about that. You put in the ability to import music into the game. How does that work exactly?
It has a beat detection algorithm. We actually were working on our own beat detection algorithm that we were going to open source in the hopes that people would make more rhythm games because there aren't enough of them. But it's pretty difficult, and I eventually found out about this thing called Mirex, which is a competition every year of academic competition for music algorithms. So it's like people doing their PhDs on this stuff, and that's all they do. And so you can see like a ranked list of the best beat detection algorithms in the world. And so we're using one of the best beat detection algorithms in the world that's open source. It's called Essentia, so that's what we're using.
So I've seen a multitude of monsters and traps and whatnot that take place over the course of the beat. Can you give us an example on what some of the monsters do based on the given beats?
Sure, well they all have predictable patterns. Like I said, I want the game to feel as fair as possible. So all the enemies do the same thing every time, but your challenge is to like learn it and memorize it and internalize it, and while you're having to act fast and try not to die. So for an example, the blue slime is one of the simplest enemies. All it does is it moves down, waits one beat, then moves up, waits one beat. So if you fight it from the left or right side, it's never going to hit you. So once you learn that, then you've got the blue slimes mastered. Whereas the skeletons, they'll seek you, they'll chase you. They move every second beat, and when they're about to move, they put their hands in the air. And so you can see, oh, that skeleton's about to move, I shouldn't go next to him because then he'll hit me. And so we also have mini bosses. Every level has a mini boss at the end of it. So like a dragon, for example, has a lot of health, and one of the dragons shoots fire, but they move every second beat. So you can hit them and move back, hit them and move back, and then they'll never get you. So once you learn the ways of all of the enemies, you can go through the whole game with just a dagger, never taking a hit.
Literally get into the groove of things.
Right.
Okay, now of course you added in the DDR playstyle because you were saying earlier that someone who was working with the game said, hey, why not put in some DDR mats in there. How does the game adapt to what you use to play versus how you play?
Well, we have a DDR mode that you can use if you want it to be a little bit easier, but I think once you get good enough at the game and the DDR mode, you won't need that. You could play hardcore mode if you're good enough. There's no real difference between the keyboard and the DDR pad. It's just that you're using your feet instead. It's a little harder to change your mind quickly when you're using your feet because your legs actually have inertia. If you have to suddenly go right, it takes a second. So you have to plan ahead a bit more, be a bit better. But it's once you get good enough, it's the same.
Once the game has finished its PC release, are you considering releasing it potentially on other platforms at all, or are you going to just go headlong right into the next project for Brace Yourself?
No, we're definitely going to explore other platforms. We're in talks with a few folks about different things, but for now we're focusing on the PC, Mac, Linux, Steam release. But yeah, we're definitely going to look into it. As long as it makes sense and feels good on those platforms, we'll try it.
And if you were caught in the Crypt of the NecroDancer, what music would you prefer to have beating in the background?
Like I said, Michael Jackson Thriller is like perfect because of the zombies, and but I also tried it with funny stuff like ABBA. It's funny to be fighting zombies while listening to Dancing Queen. It's just so out of place. Works really well. Or like high tempo stuff like the William Tell Overture, where you're just like, it works great. So yeah, high tempo stuff or dance music or like Daft Punk feels really good. So anything with a strong beat feels great.
And do we have a release date in store? I know it's coming out relatively soon, but
yeah, we're not setting a date until we're like sure we're gonna hit it. We're aiming for late summer, but it's our baby. We want to make sure it's perfect before we release it. So when it's done, but hopefully soon.
And so Crypt of the NecroDancer coming soon, and well, this was a highlight from everybody here over here. It's pretty popular.